Inspired by spy thrillers like one of the most successful mangas of all time, Golgo 13, and the global success of the British James Bond movies, Himitsu Sentai Goranger is the first Super Sentai series by a technicality. Okay, so Battle Fever J was the first to use the Super Sentai name, but Goranger and JAKQ were still Sentai series with a lot of the same people who worked on the first two shows going to work on Battle Fever and beyond. So when O-Ranger happened and the franchise celebrated its 20th anniversary, Toei made the decision to grandfather in Goranger and JAKQ as part of the Super Sentai legacy, and that's the simplest explanation I can give right now because I got other fish to fry. So Goranger was created by Shotaro Ishinomori and Toei producer Toru Hirayama in the midst of the Kamen Rider franchise's massive success. The duo figured that if a singular hero was popular, why not a team of 5 heroes with each member having a greater chance to appeal to a wider audience than just the shonen demographic Kamen Rider was primarily aimed at. You still got characters for the typical young male to idolize like Tsuyoshi Kaijo, the stoic and tactical Aka Ranger, and Akira Shime, the extremely cool Owl Ranger, but then you have more unique characters for the time like Daita Owai, the large and in charge Key Ranger. This guy really loved his curry to a dangerous degree to the point where the villains would exploit that weakness, but he's ultimately a charming guy inspiring the goofy best friend archetype in many Japanese media for years to come. Due to production stuff, the role of Key Ranger would be temporarily replaced by Daigaru Kuomano, who would continue the tradition of the Key Ranger being more down-to-earth and flawed than the rest of the team. Daigaru is a hot-headed newbie joining the already established Goranger team, and despite his reservations and doubts, he still gives his 1000% effort to fight against evil, even if tragedy will come his way. One of the biggest additions Goranger brought was the introduction of a transformed heroine character, Peggy Matsuyama, aka Momo Ranger, one of the first female warriors in these henshin hero shows that can transform and beat up the bad guys, which was helped that the production team gave her a lot of screen time throughout the series. The final member of the Go Rangers, Kenji Asuka, aka Midori Ranger, is the youngest of the 5, which does lead him to being a bit more likely to strike out on his own when he feels like the current plan isn't working out, but he has his heart in the right place. While these characters are basic nowadays, at the time, this variety of character personalities, ages, and interests all in one team made the Go Rangers stand out from other singular henshin heroes of the time. Successfully creating a team tokusatsu show like this led to kids having a lot of fun picking their favorites and debating who's the best Go Ranger with their friends. And I'd argue even simplistic discussion like this is key to making a long-standing successful series. What also got people talking were the Black Cross army of villains, and I'd argue Go Ranger are some of the most memorable monsters of the week of any Sentai series. I didn't really care for the big bosses or generals here, but the episode-to-episode threats have such fun designs and gimmicks like the ever-iconic baseball monster, the train man, or the straight-up gun-face dude. These guys definitely set a high standard of monsters for other shows to follow up on. Despite all my praises, I do find Goranger a bit hard to recommend to the average viewer, both familiar and unfamiliar with Sentai, mainly due to the length. It's an 84-episode epic, and most of those episodes are Monster of the Week stories. I really do love the Monster of the Week formula. It's one of my favorite formulas of all time, but unlike the original 1971 Kamen Rider show, where you can easily split that large series into eras based on the ever-changing events in the show, Goranger was continuously yet steady in its status quo. There's no major changes or event shakeups outside of the introduction and departure of the second Key Ranger. However, it's episodic enough where I'd say you can pick whatever episodes you want to watch and just jump into them. If you're willing to take the plunge, no matter how deep, you'll find a lot of charm in Goranger's fundamentals, especially in how it's established so many tropes for future shows to improve and subvert on. Goranger's alright, and I'm glad it set the groundwork for an entire franchise to follow. As for JAKQ, this was one of the hardest Super Sentai shows to write about because I didn't know if I liked it or hated it when it was all said and done, but writing about it did help me articulate my ultimate opinions on it. The show follows a pretty simple henshin hero premise at the time, with 4 broken individuals chosen to become cyborgs to fight against evil. JAKQ took a more dramatic tone in Goranger initially, with random side characters getting killed left and right, though infamously as ratings got lower, the show slowly but surely became more lighthearted, even before the breakout star shows up. First, let's talk about the original 4 of JAKQ, and honestly, they're a step down from the Gorangers. You have some cool concepts behind the characters, like Dia Jack as a disgraced boxer, or Clover King being a scientifically necromance cyborg, but the series never expands on these concepts in meaningful ways, with even Heart Queen, the de facto girl of the team, not being as well handled as the original Pink and Goranger, leaning into more typical heroine tropes of the time, like falling in love with one of the members of the team out of nowhere. We've lost a sense of relatability and wide appeal in exchange for more boring stock action hero tropes. I know some people like the extra layer of violence JAKQ has early on, but honestly, it did nothing for me. Maybe if the show kept going in that direction, they'd find their footing, but those early edgier episodes are just alright. However, by episode 23, we are introduced to our first bonus ranger in the Super Sentai franchise, the White Wildcard Big One. This guy basically hijacks the show as the new commander of the team, with all the plans to succeed via his various disguises and tricks. He's fun, but he could have been a bit better if his fellow team members were more reactive to his wacky hijinks. This highlights my main problem of how JAKQ was retooled to keep audience interest, as instead of expanding on the interesting elements they already had, they just kept cramming in new marketable ideas to the already existing framework, making the show feel very bizarre, not helped by one of the most infamous episodes in Super Sentai history of episode 27, aka the Nazi concentration camp episode. Look, I'm all for punching down on Nazis, but something about this episode just feels weirdly tone-deaf compared to the other times Toei has punched down. Either way, despite the sleek playing card aesthetic for its heroes, I didn't really care for JAKQ. It's nowhere near like the fun campiness of Goranger, and it doesn't really achieve the dramatic heights the Best of Show Kamen Rider does, so we're left with a pretty weak show. I honestly will remember JAKQ more for what came after it and what it inspired, like Big One's appearances in future Sentai films, or the Goranger crossover movie that sets up nearly every Toei Tokuhiro crossover trope in the book. Despite being shorter than Goranger, there's much less gold to find in JAKQ, which is quite a shame as it can see so much potential in its motifs and ideas, but potential can only get you so far if you don't use it.